All right, Cobra Kai season 4. I finished it up yesterday. I'm going to try and wrap up season 5 and then watch season 6 on Friday. So I'm probably going to do the review for season 5 probably late Thursday or early Friday morning. And then I'm going to watch the 5 episodes they drop of season 6 on Friday here on the channel. So I want to talk about Cobra Kai 4, Cobra Kai season 4. And give my thoughts on it. So obviously with season 2 and 3, the show just started getting more and more crazy. By this point, I've kind of already accepted it. And the reason as to why, like, you know, it's kind of become why I'm still here. Because I know some people say that, you know, it gets goofy and it might not be as good. But the reason why I'm still enjoying this show is because of the characters. It all comes down to characters. You can do a lot of things in fiction. You can do a lot of things. You can have bad special effects. You can have bad music. You can have, there's a lot of ways you can screw something up, right? You could even break the lore in some cases and it's bad. Or even tell a story that isn't that great. But if the people care about the characters, if the people care about the storytelling, to me, that's the most important thing. And the reason why I'm still here is because the characters are great. Cobra Kai season 3 ended with this massive, actually had a very happy ending to a degree, but it had a cliffhanger because Terry Silver is called by John Krese. And so this season 4, was really made to establish Terry Silver as the new lead villain of this show. And Terry Silver, let me tell you, he's a guy who I wondered about what happened to him after Karate Kid Part 3. And he's also a guy who, he was like the only real highlight of Karate Kid Part 3. That movie actually started some of the goofiness that stayed on in Cobra Kai. But there's a lot of things about that movie I don't like. But Terry Silver being this over-the-top 80s bad guy just makes it a lot of fun to watch. It's a fun movie to watch despite it not being that great. And kind of following the same formula as the previous, as the first movie, really. Season 4 of Cobra Kai brings in Terry Silver, and early on, like, we start to figure out where he's been. He hit rock bottom, but he bounced back, made himself a wealthy man again, and now John Krese comes to him because he needs help against Johnny and Daniel's combined new schooling. Now, of course, even though the season 3 ending was awesome and very satisfying, good things were not meant to last because this season, it kind of gets funny to me because obviously, Johnny and Daniel, they have very different philosophies on martial arts. And because of that, their rivalry ends up also still being there because they have different methods of teaching. And they have different strategies. And so the school kind of gets split. And just like before, you've got characters moving back and forth. Now, I called him Bobby in the previous video. I don't know why I called him that. That's my mistake. I do not know why I called him Bobby. Robby, either way, it's his name. But Robby, because Bobby is short for Robert, so it's like the same thing. But Robby ends up kind of being the one guy who, even though it's very interesting the way they wrote this, even though Robby was built up as being the first student of both Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do under Johnny and Daniel, at this point he becomes the defector and joins up with Terry and John and their, you know, Cobra Kai, which is still brutal. Now, one of the things that, obviously the kids' drama is still there. They have this big fight at this pool party at prom, and as expected, which I kind of knew was going to happen, Tori, who in this season is now a main part of the cast, who is the main rival of Samantha, she ends up hooking up with Robby. So I saw that coming, but it was still done in a subtle enough way to where it was fine. So the way it's kind of structured is that by the time you get to episode 5, it sort of like finishes off one story and kind of moves into another one. They kind of do that with this show, how it's like 5-episode little mini arcs. That's kind of how it works. Then you have the bigger arcs going on. Now, what ends up happening is the Cobra Kai end up like, they start like messing with each other, and the Cobra Kai shave the mohawk from Hawk's head. And that's like supposed to be a big deal because that's like, you know, part of his identity at this point. And that leads to like while all that's going on, Johnny and Miguel's mom are like trying to figure out ways to like tell Miguel what's going on. So there's a lot of moving parts here, a ton of moving parts and a ton of great stories and things like that. People are moving back and forth, they're switching sides, and it all culminates in this big tournament in the final 2 episodes of the show. First of all, I loved Carrie Underwood performing the closing song of the first Karate Kid movie, and I loved the story of all the fights and everything. The cliffhanger there's that Miguel re-aggravates his back. Now, while all that's going on, the other thing I didn't mention going into the finale is and I love how they did this. Terry Silver beats up the Stingray guy, the chubby guy, and then tells him if you want to be Cobra Kai, you got to blame it on John Krese, which leads to him getting arrested. I love this because the Terry Silver character, bro, is a psychopath. In the original show, he was a psycho, and in this show, they explain that he was on cocaine, and, he doesn't want to get back involved. But when he does get involved, he gets a taste of Cobra Kai growing and becoming a bigger deal now that he's a much older man. And the whole thing ends with Terry Silver being such a psychopath, because both him and John Krese are manipulative. But Terry betrays his own guy. Remember, this is a guy who saved his life in Vietnam. What an absolute villainous thing to do, man. This guy's a complete psychopath, and now going into season 5, he's the big, real villain. But I'm going to be honest, this might be a controversial statement that I make here, but I honestly liked season 4 more than 3. I mean, I appreciated Allie coming back, and I loved all the moments there, including the finale. But man, I really love this season, and I'm going to say this season had some of the best fights. Terry Silver versus Johnny Lawrence was a fun fight. The 2 finals in the tournament were fun fights. Like, the choreography was really good. There was some legitimately good karate there, along with some other stuff. Like, I actually like season 4 more than season 3. I don't know if I like it more than the first couple seasons. I have to think about that a little bit, but season 4 is where I was hooked. Like, now that I'm in, that I'm seeing what's going on, like, now I'm super into finding out what happens next, because the cliffhanger with Miguel going into Mexico and Terry Silver's now, and I love how Terry Silver, that's the story of this season, Terry Silver. And I do got to give a ton of credit, just a ton of credit to Thomas Ian Griffin for coming back and playing this character. Much older man, and he played it up like he was, but he was still a psycho underneath. So Terry Silver is now doing what he promised or what he wanted to do in Karate Kid Part 3, which was to spread out the influence of Cobra Kai with multiple dojos. Now that Tori won the tournament for Cobra Kai, Terry Silver can now do that. And what I also loved is that little reveal, which is going to obviously lead to, because Tori and like Amanda and her mom, like I thought it was so over the top how her mom was hollering her down this season, and I guess her mom did train under Miyagi at one point or another. But I love how like she finds out that the referee was paid off, so actually Samantha should have gotten that extra point and should have been declared the winner. Tori won fair and square with a kick to the stomach, but she didn't know she won fair and square. She thought that she was okay, but the referee said that she stepped outside of the foot before the punch, but it was clearly after. So they got robbed. Turns out that Terry Silver paid off the referee because he's wealthy. I love that type of storytelling. It makes sense. And it literally is what the consequences are of what's happening in season 5, where now Terry Silver is completely out of control. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. I love it. The characters are still very lovable. The show really has changed, because it started off being like the Miguel versus Robby thing, and that's still kind of going on, but they have all these other feuds going on. And the other thing that this show introduced was, now we have the introduction of the next generation. As I made a joke about it to my friends, the Goten and Trunks generation, because now we have the younger brother of Amanda, which is, Daniel's youngest son. Now he's got his own storyline going with this kid who's the little brother of the bully from prison from season 2. And he gets bullied because Daniel's son is a shithead and even lies to Daniel about it. That does get resolved, but I loved how, again, this show plays with who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And in many ways, it shows that we as human beings are flawed. There are no good guys and bad guys, except Terry Silver, who's just bad. There are people who do bad things, and there are people who do good things, and they have a change of heart, and oftentimes misunderstandings happen. I mean, let's be honest. You know, Amanda, she did kind of hop from one guy to another. Like, there is truth in that, you know? So it's kind of crazy that this is going on. It's kind of nuts. Anyways, man, those are my thoughts. I loved this season. The Next Generation thing was kind of, I was a little bit miffed by it at first, but it actually, I think, got better as the show progressed. So I am looking forward to seeing what they do there. Like, the kid is obviously a lot younger, and you know, it's a bit silly, but I still enjoyed it. It didn't take away from the show, and I like the relationship that he's established with like his mentor Robby and how everything got messed up. So I loved it. I love this show. What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Cobra Kai Season 4 is still good because of the characters. That's the most important thing when writing television. And anything. Movies, books, video games, anything. So, again, leave your comments. I want to read them. Sorry for the mistake last review, but I don't know what I was thinking. But see you in the next one.